man, that was an adventure. I think we mentioned it last week that we had a ton of technical difficulties and stuff like that, and it's always something new. But man, this one, my microphone just did not want to work. So thankfully, we are still making something do. Unfortunately, there's no live show this time, so it's just you and me. Just the two of us, you and I. Yeah. Welcome to episode 18 of the Captain's Log, a weekly podcast we do here at the Whatnauts every week. I guess I just said it's a weekly show, so I don't need to say that we do it every week. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Eric Manix.
Hello.
What's going on, dude? How are you?
It's really hot here. It's been really hot all week. Trying to just sit here and not move too much because, it feels like Satan's armpit. That's what's up.
Crazy. How is the weather usually this time of year for you? Because I've only been out to Seattle in like the winter time.
I mean, it's usually hot this time of year, but it's more like, I don't know, the 80s, not the 90s, and it's...
Okay.
Yeah, and it's so wet here all the time with all the rain and everything that it's just very humid, so it feels muggy the hotter it gets. It just, it does not
It's
feel
not
good.
fun.
It's not, I'm Irish, man. My people weren't made for this weather.
Exactly.
I need some cold ass overcast weather. Like the rest of the year. The rest of the year's fine. Yeah, it's just kind of cold all the time and drizzling, and that I deal with just fine. When people complain about that, I'm like, yeah, shut it. Like that's perfect weather to me. But this, no, thank you.
I woke up last Saturday and it was kind of raining. And I looked at my weather app on my iPhone, and it was literally thunderstorms the entire week. And it wasn't until yesterday that it was like, okay, it's not bad. It's kind of sunny out, And then I looked at my weather app again today, and it was like, from Saturday on till the end of time, it's going to be thunderstorming. Man, this is...
That sounds awesome to me. I love storms. That's great.
I mean, I like storms. Thunderstorms are sweet. Actually, I think it's about to thunderstorm right now. One of my roommate's dogs is terrified of thunder, and he's back in the corner of my room, just like, oh my god, what? The world is ending.
Yeah, you're gonna find his shit there later.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah. Terrible. She's off in California. She was on some business trip, but I think she got delayed because of the storms here, so she's not even home yet. She was supposed to be home tonight to take care of them, but one more night without her. Whew. Oh well. That's life. C'est la vie.
Yeah, it was. I was super busy this week. I didn't really get out and do anything too much as far as like extracurricular things that people would actually find interesting. It was mostly just work and family stuff. I did some pro bono photography stuff yesterday for an organization that reunites families, and that was pretty cool. But that was, I guess, the most exciting. The biggest excitement of the week so far.
Pretty cool though, still.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Just went to a park and they had a little like celebration and stuff, and I was just taking little family portraits for anyone that like wanted it, and floated around and took some candids and stuff. It was actually pretty good practice because it was really, really sunny and really bright, and then most of the event took place under like a canopy, so trying to get these backlit shots of these people speaking while it's like blinding sun behind them
not the best.
Not ideal lighting conditions, and I shoot fully manual on my camera, and I always kind of start with what the light meter says and then kind of, just go from there, right? But
Yeah.
it was one of those extreme lighting situations where my light meter was like just so not even close to right. It's like according to my light meter, I was severely underexposing everything, but it was like anything less than that, and I'd be looking at like just a silhouette, and it was just like bright, and then it's a statue. There's no detail in their face at all. So it was one of those like, today the light meter is not my friend, and I just ignored it after a while. But that was it was cool. It was good practice, and I got some usable shots. I mean, everything that they wanted and expected from me, I was able to deliver, so that was good. It's more like I just stress about it myself, But
That's good. Yeah, I remember that, like, the magic moment when I started shooting in RAW, because I'm a graphic designer, so I don't like I'm around cameras and stuff. I don't necessarily need to know everything about photography or whatever, but my college required it that we had a DSLR for the graphic design department, and for the longest time I didn't have one.
Yeah,
I kind of got away with it. I'm one of those like art kids who's like, I didn't use exactly what they said, but I made it work and no one knew. So but then once they found out, they're like, yeah, you have to get a nicer one. But I was still shooting in like JPEG high, and just just like the largest JPEG that I could do, because I wasn't actually doing any like photography stuff, and then I remember someone asking me something about my editing process, and then being like, wait, did you shoot in RAW? And I was like, no, what's that?
Yeah.
He was like, dude, that's gonna save your life. Just
you
start
gotta,
everything you do, shoot in RAW.
You gotta shoot RAW. The other thing too is you can't just go off of the image on the back of your little camera screen too, because what you're seeing there is a processed JPEG. So even if you're shooting in RAW, the little LCD image that you play back
completely
might look fine, but
screen.
it's not the RAW that was captured. So you got to get good at reading your histograms, which I'm not the best at. I actually ignore them a lot of the time, but yesterday I ended up having to read them a lot, and it was kind of a trip just looking at them and seeing how like the figure was lining up with like the spikes in the histogram, and I was like, okay, well, according to this, it looks good. And then of course when I look at the RAW later, I was like, okay, all right, because sometimes looking at the screen, it's like, that doesn't look right at all. But it's photography's wild, boy. Yeah, but no, you always want to shooting RAW can save your life. I've shot some weddings before, like in some pretty dark conditions that I thought weren't going to be usable at all, and then you ended up being able to just boost some levels a little bit, and it was a little noisy, but it was like it's just,
you can do a lot more than just like manipulating the pixels. It's like you can actually kind of change some of the effects when you shoot in RAW.
When you're shooting in RAW, you can change the color temperature, the white balance. You can pull out shadow detail, things like that. As long as you didn't overexpose. It's infinitely more
JPEG.
malleable.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Art is weird stuff. We learned a lot of tricks in art school and stuff like that. So it was cool though. It was cool, like being like everyone, because like most of the people there didn't know my name, so everyone was like, "Hey, photographer over here," and I don't know. It was it was fun. It was good. It was a good learning experience, and the event itself was really cool. Seeing these families just getting back together was a pretty powerful thing. It was a pretty emotional day. So that was my big excitement. There you go. Good stuff. What did I do this week? I played a hell of a lot of Fallout 4.
I do love Fallout.
That's what I've been doing. So at first, I really didn't like that game. I want to say I bought it last Black Friday, or kind of around that time. I played like the first 6 to 8 hours, and I was like, man, this is boring as hell. There's nothing here, nothing to do, and it didn't hook me. But eventually, I was like, you know what, I should give it a second shot, and that's what I did. And I eventually was like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. And then I started to get into it, and I was in I guess this past week I was playing Fallout 4 on my PS4. I had also started Kingdom Hearts 2 again, because I'm slowly playing through them all before the new one comes out. And then I was playing Celeste on my Switch. So I was like, you know what? I kind of just need to get these things done. Like I'm just gonna do a lot of video game stuff. And last week, after we got done recording the Captain's Log, I was like, I'm gonna play some Fallout 4, and I was up till like 7 in the morning playing Fallout 4. Just completely screwed up my whole sleeping schedule.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That will do it. That's for sure. This week was very rough in the mornings, as I was like, okay, I need to get to sleep, but I can't. It's 3 a.m. and I'm wide awake. What do I do?
Damn.
Yeah. But I finally beat it. I beat Fallout 4. It was good. I ended up liking it a lot more than I initially thought. Thought that I would.
Yep, I feel like all the modern Fallouts start pretty slow. And for me, it takes several missions, and then there's like a point where, I don't know, you get like a cool weapon, or you get to just a new area, and then it like falls into place.
To a part you're like, okay, I kind of understand the loop here and what's happening. This was actually my first Fallout game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I saw my roommate, or one of my older roommates, play Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. But kind of at that time, the only games I had was like Halo and whatever Final Fantasy was out at that time. So Fallout wasn't really my jam then, or at least I had missed the boat.
Oh man, yeah.
And
the modern ones are a lot of fun.
Fallout 4 came out, and it was still just like, well, I haven't played the first 3, so I don't know. I don't know about this dog that's following you around there the whole time. But yeah, I eventually picked it up because it was $20, so I was just like, why not? But it was good.
Excellent.
It was good. You mentioned on Twitter your PS4 or whatever you have. I'm not sure. Is it PS4 or PS3?
PS4. PS4. I had three separate PS3s die on me.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I know. So after the last one, I was finally like, fuck it, I'm just upgrading. And the optical drive has gone out on my PS4, so I no longer have the ability to play DVDs or Blu-rays, and I'm pretty annoyed about it.
That sucks.
Or of course, any disc games. A lot of the stuff I've been playing lately has been downloaded stuff that I got via Humble Bundle, so like Valkyria Chronicles and the Resident Evil remake, stuff like that. So like as far as like gaming, I still have plenty that I can do, and I've got Hulu and Netflix, but I've got some cool Criterion Collection Blu-rays and stuff that I'd love to have the ability to watch. And
yeah. And
that's the only Blu-ray player I have, and so it is now dead, and I'm annoyed about that. Yeah, so that's cool. That's fun. I'm real happy about that.
I had some Blu-ray trouble with the PS3 that I used to have. I used to have it wasn't a launch one, but it was still one of the big fat ones.
Yeah.
And for a while, it stopped reading Blu-rays. Or just all discs, and it just kind of sucked. I could only use it for Netflix and stuff, and then eventually I was just kind of moving things around, and instead of having it flat, I tilted it up on its side, because it could do both things.
Yeah.
and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna test it again, and it worked. I was like, what the hell? Like,
Sweet.
yeah. So who knows? Maybe you just need to turn it on its side. Be like,
I think I
hey,
just need to curse at it some more.
yeah, fuck you.
We had an original PlayStation that my brothers had like knocked off the TV so many times that the motor drive was super fucked up on it, and you had to turn it on and then flip it completely upside down. Otherwise it would like the disc was like it would play like diagonally. It would like skip into the actual like PlayStation itself and be all fucked up because it just like
weird.
It's like the laser got knocked off the track or something just because they were too rough on shit because they're dumbass teenagers. So yeah, when I wanted to play like the Resident Evil Director's Cut or whatever back in the day, I'd have to turn it on and then flip it completely upside down and then it would work. And that was like one of the original big PlayStations. Yeah,
I think they call them a PSX now.
Yeah.
That's what
the
they're...
big ass gray one before they
Yeah.
came with the smaller little. Later on, towards the end of the life cycle, I got one of the slim little white ones with the little LCD flip screen. That was a sex beast. That thing was beautiful. I played a lot of Final Fantasy Tactics on that thing. Yeah, I still miss
Final
that
Fantasy Tactics
one.
is good.
It was beautiful.
So I haven't really heard you talk much about video games. It's always been comics or podcasting and stuff like that. What was the first system that you guys had? Was it the PS1 growing up, or did you have something before that? Did you have a Super Nintendo or something?
Kyle, I am turning 38 years old in a month, so I'm going to take you on a history lesson, my son. Atari 5200. Actually, no, 2600. Atari 2600 was my first system ever. And then my grandma had a ColecoVision.
There you go. That's one most people haven't
heard
of.
That's a deep cut if we're talking video games. That's a fucking deep cut. Had this giant ass fucking joystick that you had to like put your hand in. It had all these like little buttons in the joystick, and it like you could like beat someone to death with that thing. And it was like shitty ass. I don't know if it was 4-bit or what it was. It was like ugly as shit. Even the Atari looked better than the ColecoVision. It was like goddamn. It was old school. I remember there's some fucking Smurfs game was the only game I was ever able to beat because every game for the ColecoVision was like hard as fuck, and so I'd play it for like 30 seconds and just like, cool, I guess I drove off a cliff now and I'm dead, bye. So that was fun. We wanted a Nintendo, the OG Nintendo, really bad, but we never got one. It wasn't until we moved to this state, which was like '89, that we kept asking for one, and then the Christmas of '89, my dad got us a Sega Genesis, and the Sega Genesis was brand new in the States at the time. And of course, we were like, "What the fuck is this, Dad? This is not."
This isn't Nintendo.
Because it came out. It was like almost 2 years before the Super Nintendo. I think the Super Nintendo was like '91. So it was so everyone still had a Nintendo, right? And we had the 16-bit system, which was like, well, I didn't know what the fuck that meant. I knew that we got a ninja game. We got Revenge of Shinobi, and so I was about that pretty early on. And Revenge of Shinobi is still one of my all-time video games. But basically, we were really pissed at first, and then we. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's lame. You didn't get a Nintendo like all of us." And then all of our friends kept coming over and playing our system. And then, of course, within like a year, all of our friends had Sega Genesises, and we were like, we were like the cool kids because we were the first ones on the block. Because my dad was always that guy. Like he bought a CD player in like 1985 and shit. Like he
was
my dad.
The early
he was the early adopter on everything. Like he got a mirrorless camera like 12 years ago or some shit. Like he's like the little kind of like tech nerd that likes to show off shit, and he always has been. And then our first Nintendo system was the N64.
Okay.
And that came out when I was in high school, and I remember there used to be a really cool store called Game Bros that was here in town on the west side of Olympia, and it's long since gone, unfortunately. But I vividly remember when they got the N64, and because they had this giant, like those old projector TVs that were like the precursors to like HD TVs. That was like the biggest, nicest TVs you could get back then. They had like the three fucking lights. Do you remember those? And they'd like shine on the screen. They had when they had to buy one of those every 6 months or something, because they would play tournaments on them and shit, and so they'd have like Street Fighter, and they'd like burn them out because they like weren't designed for video games and shit, and so like every 6 months or so they had to buy one of those new TVs. But I remember like a kid playing Wave Race 64.
Yes,
and at the time I thought that
game.
was. I do too, and I remember at the time, like I think I was like 16 or something. I was like, "Oh my god!" It like was the best looking game in the world to me. Like it like blew my mind. Now I'm just like, "Ha!" But like, you know, it was the 90s, man. It was like at the time that was like the height of tech.
It's strange because yeah, the N64 was one of the first, if not the first, where it went into that like 3D. I mean, I guess you got it on the PlayStation 1 as well. But it was like that it was the first time, like the first era where we were getting like the true like 3D worlds and stuff.
The biggest
like that.
change was the analog stick. The analog stick was built in, because if you remember, Kyle, the early PlayStation was a D-pad only originally. Mm-hmm. They did the DualShock later.
I do remember that.
And the DualShock, yeah, it was a few years after the end of the life of the PlayStation. And in fact, if I'm remembering correctly, I feel like the DualShock came out after the N64. I feel like it was in a response to some computer nerd can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But yeah, so I remember just having the analog control was like the big like mind fuck to me. And now, I mean, I've gone back and it's like unusable now. But like at the time. Yeah. It was like, holy fucking shit, this one analog thumbstick. So a lot of it was just the ergonomics. So like being in a 3D world, but feeling like you had more three-dimensional control, more nuanced control over it. That was what blew my little teenage mind. And then, I'm not a big platformer. I mean, I think they're cool, but it was just never my scene. That's part of the reason. Like, I wanted Nintendo because, like, everyone had a Nintendo when I was a kid, but, like, I was never, like, super into Mario and stuff like that. I was always more into, like, action games and stuff. But then N64 came out, and that was fucking phenomenal. Mario 64 is probably still one of my all-time favorite games. It's just so good. Mm-hmm. It was so fun. And the fact that it was a lot more like open world in 3D and everything, I just really, in fact, honestly, even now, honestly, I don't think they've topped it. They've made prettier looking games, but as far as like being a revolutionary Mario game, I think Mario 64 like pushed the most boundaries within the Marios, and it just it was dope.
What was the not the most recent one? What was the one with the planets? Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, that one's fun.
I think that one was the one that came closest to like innovating and stuff. Because yeah, it was one of the first times they had the like motion controls, and there were these planets, and it was like I don't know. It was a weird new perspective on how to play Mario. And
Sunshine was good too, but everyone slept on Sunshine. Sunshine's underrated.
I loved Sunshine, but yeah, a lot of people hate that game. I just beat Mario Odyssey a couple weeks ago on Switch, and that one was a lot of fun, but I think that was more of a celebration of everything they've done so far, rather than like, hey, we're really gonna come up with a brand new Mario here. But yes, continue. You got the N64. It was amazing.
The game I spent the most time on was definitely GoldenEye.
There you go. Fun times. Slappers only.
I'm not terribly good at most shooters, and like I don't play shooters now. Like everyone, when people find out I have a PlayStation, I always have to like break their heart because they're always like, "Oh yeah, are you playing like?
You should play Fortnite with me."
Yeah, like are you on like Overwatch and whatever? Like you're on you're online, right? I'm like, no. I prefer one-player games now. I mean, I liked back in the day playing multiplayer with like kids in the room with me, and back in the like splitting the TV into four and whatever kind of old school
co-op.
Days. Yeah, I was a big fan of that. I love the social aspect of gaming in that regard, and this is just gonna age me and make me sound like a dinosaur, but like I've played Halo, in like a networked, with people online and people in the room and that kind of thing. But like I much prefer having like real people there. For one thing, like internet gaming culture is so toxic. Like, I've run into like entire clans of like white supremacists playing like, you know, Halo 3 and against us, and I've been like, well, this doesn't make me feel comfortable. There's like literally this like skinhead group that we're playing right now. I felt good every time I killed one of them, but I was just like, cool, this is great. That, you know, that your comments are great. And I'm a white person. I'm amazingly offended. I can't imagine, you know, anyone's coming across you, and it's one of those like, well, I know you wouldn't be saying that to a real person, but you get some internet balls when you're you know, have the anonymity, I guess. So that's fun.
That kind of stuff, it's on one hand still happening, and on the other hand, like, it's gotten a lot better at the same time. Like, there's more ways to deal with that and report it when that's actually good.
I haven't even tried in like 12 years. Like, I found it so toxic then that I just quit. I completely. I was like, I don't care.
More recently, Rainbow Six Siege, they started banning people for like using the N word or stuff like it.
Good.
There was one story, apparently the guy used, it was Nibba, he said nibba, and they banned him, and so he tweeted at him. He was like, what the hell? Like, all I said was nibba, it's not the N-word, and like why would you ban me for that? That's stupid. And they only replied with, good.
Good, like, seriously. Enough's enough,
get
man.
The hell
seriously.
Out
I was really good at GoldenEye. None of my friends knew that with the remote mine, if you pressed A and B at the same time, you could detonate them in midair. And for some reason, none of my friends knew that little trick, and I did.
I mean, it's been forever since I've played it, so maybe I knew it back then. But you know.
And so, because I'm not a good shot, and that's why I suck at most games, but all I would do, just to fuck with my friends, is I would just switch to remote mines and just throw them at them and just blow them up in midair. So I was like the crazy demolitions guy, basically, was what I did. But I was really good at GoldenEye, and I won almost all the time. That's like one of the only co-op or competitive games that I'm any good at. Like, I suck at Halo and stuff. I think those games are fun, but I suck at them. My biggest thing on Halo, because we used to have like work parties where we would do it at my old boss Jim. He like lived in this fucking tiny ass town, and he like legit had a barn, and like inside the barn he had painted one of the walls white, and we'd take the company projector and we would like project one of the screens, and then I think the most we ever got was like 12 players networked together. So we brought a couple other TVs in and everything. We never got the full 16. I always wanted to, but it was like me and a bunch of coworkers would sync up and play it that way. But I'm really good at shit talk. Like, I'm real good at shit talk. So like
that's why you get online.
Yeah, like they might beat me, but I mean I beat them at like life, so I feel still vindicated in some way, and I still get some entertainment out of it. But yeah, I gotta say, GoldenEye destroyed the shit out of that. It wasn't until Final Fantasy VII came out that I got into role-playing games.
Okay.
And now RPGs are one of my faves, and I've played a ton of them over the years. But guess I played that. I remember I played that game, but I was a couple years late to it. And then the first Perfect Circle album and the second Cold album, 13 Ways to Bleed on Stage, they came out at like the same time, and I would just alternate putting those CDs in, and I would just grind on. There you go. So I'd like run in the middle of nowhere, and just level up my characters and like play because you just have to grind in those games. But I'd listen to those records like just back to back because I had a very small music collection back then, and that was a vivid gaming memory that I still have. And then the PS1 had a ton of good RPGs, so that was discovering Breath of Fire and things like that. Getting into the PS2 still a really strong library. It wasn't until the PS3 that I feel like the RPGs started to get a little lackluster. At least there weren't as many good ones. I dabbled in Xbox. I had an Xbox One. I played it a little. I thought it was okay. I mostly played it because I thought Halo was fun with my friends, but
Now you say Xbox One. Do you mean
the original Xbox?
Recent, I was gonna say.
I do this all the time. The original
I was
Xbox.
following you. Like I was I assume he means the original one.
I hate that they called it Xbox One. I think it's the stupidest name because I fucking do that every time.
Terrible idea.
The original Xbox I own.
OG Xbox, yeah.
The OG Xbox, and I played it a bit. My favorite, hands down, was definitely Knights of the Old Republic. I fucked that game up. I love it. It fucked me up.
I've never actually played that game.
Oh my god, it's so good, and I think the sequel sucks, and I'm still mad about it. But because everyone's like, oh, the second one's the same. Like, no, it's not. It's so not the same. I can definitely tell a different company made it. It's fucking bullshit. But the first one, legit, one of my all-time favorite games. But yeah, Knights of the Old Republic, the first one is fucking, it's great. I love it so much. Such a good story on it. It's so fun.
I think it's on. I think it's on Xbox Game Pass right now. It's on their backwards compatibility.
If you have a way to play it, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I replayed it a few years ago. I actually rebought. Actually, I got it from Tobiah from View from the Gutters. He sold me his Xbox for $5. And
hell yeah.
and I hunted down a copy on eBay of the game, and I just to replay it because I got so hyped to play it again because it had been 10 or 12 years or however long it had been, and it's one of those I got really into it, and I forgot that it was like an old game because I don't really think of games as far as like retro games or whatever they are. It's just like games are just games to me. Yeah. Because also I'm so old that they weren't retro games the first time I played them; they were just video games. But like Tessa came home one day and she was like, "Oh my god! Like, why does this game look so bad?" And I was like, "Baby, this game is shit." I was like, "This game is hot. This game is this game came out in like 2003, didn't it? Shit, yeah." I was like, I didn't really think about it. I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess things have changed, haven't they?" Because when you're playing the game, you're just so into it, you know.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. 360 I owned, and I played that, I think, even less.
Wow.
It was a very pretty system, but I'm just not I'm not a fanboy either way. It's kind of like I just want to play whatever works.
Yeah.
But the Xbox stuff doesn't really grab me, I've found. Sorry if that offends anyone. I'm not saying it's bad or whatever. I mean, there's some really great games.
What a Sony fanboy.
I know, I'm going to get, whatever. I like Sony's controller better. I like the DualShock controller infinitely better. Also, it's what I'm used to. I've literally been playing it for 20 years, so
sure.
over 20 years at this point. Fuck, I got my original PlayStation in December of 1995 because again, Dad was an early adopter, so we got one that first Christmas that it was out in the States. Because we had fucking ESPN Extreme Games at the time, a game that was kind of like Road Rash.
ESPN 8 Yojo.
It was a trip. That game had video motion capture, and it blew my little 15-year-old mind. Thought it was the best looking game ever at the time. Fucking video games, man, Jesus Christ. A game I adore, or a system I adore that doesn't get enough love is the GameCube. The GameCube is super dope.
GameCube.
I fucking love GameCube. GameCube, I think it's my favorite Nintendo system. I love it.
It was a great system.
There wasn't a lot of good games, but the good games they had were fucking phenomenal, and you couldn't get them anywhere. Or if you could get them elsewhere, it was the best version of it.
It was solid.
Yeah,
solid
so Resident Evil 4 originally came out on the GameCube. They ported it later for the PS2, and then, of course, every other system after that.
Yeah.
But originally, it was GameCube, and, of course... I still like the first Resident Evil best just because it's what I started with, so just for sentimental reasons, but I
Sure.
fucking love the fourth game. I adore it. I think Leon Kennedy's a cool character. I totally get why people lost their shit because it's way better controls. It's so good. It's so good. And it blew my mind at the time. And they did the PS the remake of the first game, which I still think looks really good now, even honestly, because they've just put they've upscaled it for HD, but it's it's still fuck.
Yeah.
It was 2005 or some shit. It was still a long time ago that came out.
They just showed the first teaser trailer for the remake of Resident Evil 2.
And I'm fucking hyped. I love the second
they're
game.
remaking it from the ground up.
Yeah, I'm really hyped.
So it's not just an up-res thing. They're they're
Yeah.
they're making it from scratch.
I never played the third game. I hear it's really awesome. I know they did some cool stuff with it, like you could make your own ammo and stuff. But like, my PlayStation had died completely at that point. The one that my brothers had stepped on or whatever and knocked over. So I didn't have a PlayStation when it came out, and it was.
Gotcha.
I think before I bought my PS2, so it was one of those like I always forget about Resident Evil 3, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to. Because I played every other, like, up until that point, the main games in the series. There's tons of offshoots and stuff. But, yeah, I kind of hope they did a Remake 3. I don't know if they will. I know it's, like, the least popular of the PlayStation 1 versions. But, yeah, fuck, the GameCube was amazing. Skies of Arcadia, which originally was a Dreamcast game. And it was fucking amazing. And, like, no one knows what Skies of Arcadia is, but goddamn is it good. They ported that one to the GameCube, and they added some, like, additional quests on it. And, like, that game's really expensive now, and it's really hard to find. And, like, I'm still kicking myself now for... I mean, I got broke, so I had to sell all my GameCube shit a long time ago. But, that's one I looked up. I was like, I should get back into it. Like, nope. I'll just live vicariously through other people. One of my friends, Kiara, she goes by Swedish Ballerina Cosplay. She's, if you look at my Instagram, she's the Cinderella cosplayer that I got a bunch of pictures of.
Hey, can you hold on just a sec? Hold on. Thank you. Sorry. My roommate has 3 pit bulls, and they bark at everything. So now he wants back in my room. But no, fuck you. You left. You hate me. Okay. Yeah, I'm good to go when you are.
All right. I forgot what
you were mentioning you had a friend named Kiara.
Yeah. Swedish Ballerina Cosplay, she was the super dope Cinderella on a bunch of my Instagram photos right now. She's really great, but she posted, and I don't remember the character's name anymore, but she did a Skies of Arcadia cosplay, and I was like, I fucking lost my mind. I was like, oh my god, not only do you know that game, which like no one ever is like, I don't know what that game is, but it's like you love it so much you cosplayed. I was like, I already thought you were cool. You just moved up the ladder on my like friend hierarchy, just for that. Like that's like bonus fucking points. Like so dope. I missed the boat on the Dreamcast. Everyone I knew had a Dreamcast. Everyone had one, and I thought they were really cool. I was like, I was like 19, 20.
One of my cousins had it, and we were on vacation. Yeah, and I got to play it with them for like a week. And I think all they had was Crazy Taxi, so that's the only one
that was
I know.
The killer app. Everyone had everyone had Crazy Taxi, and then Shenmue is probably the most beloved now.
Yep. They're remaking Shenmue too, so.
Unpopular opinion, that game is virtually unplayable. The controls are fucking garbage, but it's
nowadays
it's
gorgeous. Absolutely. From everyone that I hear talking about it, they're like it's for like what it was and what it was trying to do. It was incredibly ambitious. It was one of the first like open world immersive sims that was like actually an open world.
I applaud them for their effort,
sim.
And I think it was a cool story. So I watched my best friend Alan play it, and I enjoyed watching him play it. So because I don't understand like streaming culture, like I don't get like Twitch, like I don't watch people play video games because I'd rather just play video games myself. But like Shenmue is one of those ones where like, okay, that's really a cool narrative. So like that's when I would sit and watch. Someone play it just because I think it's got a good story and it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's one I've heard. It's like, this is one of the video games that even if you don't like the game or if it's old, like you should probably play it just to at least know, like, because basically the open world games that we have nowadays, like this is where all of that started. So go check it out. But yeah. Were you ever into the handheld? Like, did you ever have a Game Boy, or what was the?
Yeah,
I know like Sega had Game Gear, I believe it was at one point.
Yeah, the Game Gear was fucking ridiculous. Yeah, that thing ate batteries like there was no tomorrow. So, I started in 1992. I got the original fat ass, ugly as shit Game Boy. And I played the original Tetris just to death, and I still think original Game Boy Tetris is the best Tetris. Anything trying to improve on it is just no. I don't need it. I just need the original old school ugly ass Game Boy Tetris is my shit for life. I don't even remember what other games I even had anymore. Tetris is the only one that stuck, and I still could play Tetris for fucking ever.
All day, every day.
So good. Yeah, it's just so good. It's such a classic fucking game. God, it's so good. I remember my brother got the Game Boy Color, and that was a fucking huge deal at the time. They shrunk down the Game Boy somewhere in there. I don't remember what it was called, and they gave it a better, higher resolution screen. Because the original was like this weird, almost olive green, and then they did a smaller Game Boy.
Game Boy and then Game Boy Pocket, and then
maybe
Game Boy
the
Color.
Pocket, that's what it was. And then he had a Color. So my brother jumped onto the Game Boy Color, my brother Sean, and that's when they started doing the weird fucking peripherals. Like they had like a camera, and they had like the little printer and shit that you could do, and like.
I had
and
the
he
Game
got
Boy
into
camera. That shit was awesome.
Yeah. I wanted one. I always wanted one. But he had a bunch of like the Pokemon games, like the original stuff, and I played some of that stuff, just borrowing his, but I never owned a Color myself. It wasn't until the Game Boy Advance SP
there you go.
that I upgraded, and it was mostly for Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which I still really love and think is super
fucking
super
love that
dope.
game.
I love it. It's one of my favorite RPGs. It's so good. Another system that honestly I don't remember what else I played anymore. I know I had some Castlevania and some other really cool games. I still think the Game Boy Advance is a really killer system. In fact, I have one now because I traded. I had like the retro NES one, and because when I traded in my GameCube and all that stuff, like I mentioned before, that's what I ended up getting with it. Is I just got a shit ton of store credit from GameStop. They had some deal going on at the time, so I was like, dope. I got like a ton of games for it.
Awesome.
And but I sold it, and it ended up being worth a ton of money later. Apparently, that was like the desirable one. But then I had a friend that like just didn't want theirs, so like, yeah, we were cleaning out our garage, so I mean, you can have it if you want it. So now I have one again, and I didn't have to pay a fuck ton for it. But I had to rebuy a bunch of those games. So I had to rebuy Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and but that's cool. So now I can play it again, and it's super dope, and I love it. I own is it the DS? Is that the one? The one after. I have a DS, and I never play it. I got it years and years after it was like, you know, a thing. Like the 3DS was out by then for sure. But I never play it. So as far as handheld stuff now, I don't really play it. Yeah. When I was like a care provider back in the day, and I had to like be somewhere for long periods of time. Yeah, like my Game Boy Advance used to get a lot of
everywhere.
Love, but I don't really hardly have time for video games at all now with like the kids and everything. When I do play, it's on my PlayStation, and it's 20 minutes to an hour here and there, maybe a couple times a week if I'm lucky, and it's usually when they're in bed, or if they're like, they'll do little park play dates with their mom and stuff like that, and like so I might try to, like, Alien Isolation was the last game that like Alien Isolation was the last game I beat, and that was the last game I'd beat in a long time because it takes me forever to get through stuff, and that's one that I, of course, couldn't play around the kids because it's so violent,
right.
Which is part of the reason it took me forever. But God, that game was fucking brilliant. I love that game, and I'm sad they're never gonna make another one because I really loved it. I love the story on it, and I love survival horror games. Survival horror and RPGs are my faves.
I've not heard the best things about that game.
Well, all those people are fucking liars with horrible taste. Alien Isolation is the shit. It is so good. It's really fucking hard. God, it's a hard game. It's brilliant. No, it's a survival horror game, and you play as Ripley's daughter, and it's like 15 years after the events of the movie, the first movie, and they find the black box recorder from the Nostromo, and you have to go to this space station to find it, And of course, you know, there's an alien there, and it's a whole thing. It's great because there's been a ton of alien games over the years, and most of them are shoot 'em ups.
Yeah.
If the alien sees you, you're dead. That's just how that game works. If the alien sees you, you're fucking done.
I think there's a game. Have you heard of a game called Soma? Soma.
The name sounds familiar. It's definitely not one I've played.
I think it's the same kind of thing where it's that survival horror. If that thing sees you, you're fucked. Like,
dude, it's so beautiful. It's really well balanced because you'll go through the game and like you've got your little what the fuck, that little like radar, basically the little handheld. Your radar pinger thing. And so like you can use that, and you can like crouch and, you know, try to be careful. And there's certain things you can do to like hopefully not be seen. And there's things you can do to like intentionally get his attention, because there's times in the games where that might be a thing. It's beautiful though, because you go through this whole part of the game.
Like that.
Yeah, you go through this whole part of the game and you're just like actively trying to avoid it, and you're like, I fucking hate this thing, like, god damn it. And then you'll run into like a pack of humans, and there'll be like 8 of them with shotguns, and you're like, cool, well, if I try to fight them, I'm dead. And the first time that I wished the alien was around so that would kill them, I was like, oh damn, oh, what just happened? I was like, come on, alien, come on, do your thing, eat those motherfuckers. I got something for you. I got something for you, baby. But then there's also the Working Joes, which are these really creepy robots, but they're droids with like plastic skin that very clearly like don't look human. They have plastic skin and these creepy yellow eyes, and they will fuck you up. They will just like murder you the minute they see you. The Working Joes, I think, are my least favorite, even more than the alien, because there's motherfuckers. Okay. And but there's this cool balance to the game where like you get a shotgun, for example, at one point, and you can use the shotgun to, you know, kill a human. But if you shoot the shotgun, guess who's going to hear it? Right.
Yeah.
But there might be times where like you can't sneak past something, and so there's a really cool balance to the game, and I really love that I actively had to think about every decision I made. And it wasn't just entering a room. It was just like, okay, because you get things like you get smoke bombs, and you can make like noise generators, and there was. I don't know. I loved it personally. I thought it was really fucking great. My understanding is, they're never gonna make another one, and I'm bummed out about it. I played that, and then afterwards I got really hyped, and I watched Alien Covenant, and I had heard that Alien Covenant wasn't terribly good, but I was like in an Aliens mood after playing that game, and so I watched Alien Covenant, and it was fucking bullshit, and I just got really sad, and it kind of made me want to just replay Isolation, but Isolation's so hard, I'm not going to touch it again for probably a couple years. But no, I highly recommend you check it out sometime if you like survival horror stuff at all. I thought it was really fun. It's frustrating. I fucking died a lot. I died a lot in that game.
Check out Soma then, because I've seen a trailer for that, and it's a similar type of thing. I also played through a game called Prey.
Prey,
by
I've heard
Bethesda.
Of.
Yeah,
I'm really behind on new games.
Newer
man.
one.
I'm the worst at keeping up with shit.
That was it stinks because it was a fucking amazing game, but it's not one that necessarily appeals to a lot of people, and so it didn't sell super well. But yeah, it's kind of a mix of that. Like survival horror with like a BioShock type of survival horror thing, and I really loved it. It was honestly one of my games of the year from last year. So that would be one I think you might like as well.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I have an incredibly large backlog of games that either I've bought on Steam or whatever, and like keep telling myself I'm gonna play, or are on my like wish list to play. Like everyone keeps telling me I need to play Witcher 3, and I'd love to.
I haven't played that one yet.
It looks really good.
I'm excited for their next game, Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh yeah, that looks fucking amazing.
For.
That looks fucking amazing. I love Cyberpunk shit, and I remember seeing a trailer for that one, a couple years ago. Like, and now that it's actually going to be a thing. Yeah, I'm definitely hyped on that. I'm really bad with new games. I'm the type that like I never run out and buy like a brand new game. I'm not gonna pay fucking $60, and especially now every game has fucking bugs and they need patches, and it just seems like no game's ever finished anymore. So like, I wait till there's like the $30 like game of best of the year or whatever, and like then I'll play it that way. So it's usually at least a couple years. Because even if I bought it right away, like fucking, like I never beat Skyrim because my PlayStation died before then. I put a ton of time into it, but I played it to death. Yeah. Also, I get fucking easily distracted in those games. Like I'm gonna go on this quest. Ooh, what's this cave over here? Bye. Damn it. Yeah.
It's like I'm gonna sit here and play Gwent for 4 hours straight, which is just a mini game. And
yeah, I got deep in the rabbit hole on fucking Skyrim. Yeah. Oh my god.
Because like I just beat Fallout 4. But yeah, it's the thing. It's like, well, you kind of beat the main story, but there's still all this other stuff you can do.
Yeah, that was Fallout 3 I beat, and I remember being like, oh, I guess you can keep playing. Weird. And
because this one I think was the first game that didn't roll credits. Like when the game was done, like it gave me this cutscene, and it was kind of reflective and pensive, so I was like, okay, this is the end of the game. Like I know this is the end, but it's like, well, you did the thing we set out to do, but I guess there's other things we can do. Like a character literally said that like right afterwards. He was like, well, you did the thing, I guess we can do other things.
The weirdest one to me was Red Dead Redemption, because that one, the game, you beat it, and I think it does like roll credits, but it basically has some cutscenes and stuff, and it's like very clear that the game ended, because the main character dies at the end, but then you just play as the son, and you can just keep playing as the son. Like, oh, this is weird. I mean, it's cool, but it's like, this is fucking
interesting.
Weird.
Yeah.
So weird, and you can just keep playing. You can just keep playing the game as the son.
Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out in like 2 months.
I'm definitely hyped for that. I played the fuck out of that first game, and I thought it was so brilliant.
I haven't played the first one. I actually also never got into the GTA games.
The Grand Theft Auto stuff I've played a little. I was a lot more... Red Dead Redemption had such a good story that even though it's an open world game and I get easily distracted, I wanted to know what happened so bad in that game that like I made myself beat it. Where like Grand Theft Auto is just like, I'll fuck around and steal some cars and see how many stars I can get and before I die kind of thing. That's like GTA. That's what I do.
Point of that game.
GTA, I just fuck around. Can I steal? Like I love in GTA 5. I love just like going to the airport, stealing a jet, and then just like fucking trying to fly into the military base or some like ridiculous, thing that where I know I'm gonna die instantly, and see how long I can survive. It was like what I did with Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, Red Dead Redemption had such a good story. I was so into it.
I want to go back and play that one.
It's beautiful. It's really great because even within like some of the stuff that you have to do, on rails through the game, like some of the tutorials and stuff, even those don't work the same every time. Like there was one where you have to learn how to ride a horse, and the mechanism is you have to do like a horse race against one of the other characters, but it shows you the mechanics of how that works. And I love stuff like that because it feels less like hand holding, because it's like, oh, it's like you're telling me this thing, but as you're doing it, I have to like figure out the actual controls. But I fucked something up the first time with it. I think I just lost the race or whatever it was, and so I had to do it again. And doing it the second time, a fucking mountain lion came and ate my ass. And I was like, damn. So even in a scene that you assume would be
video
safe,
games.
I was like, video games, my dude. Like, I was like, okay. I assumed that I would have been safe in this instance because it's like, essentially a controllable cutscene. Was like, nah, not even then. The lion was like, nah, son, you're done.
Yeah,
fucking ate me. It was beautiful.
Like, more and more stuff like that is happening now in video games. Stuff with like I played Horizon Zero Dawn last year, and that game is fucking amazing.
That looks
so
really good.
And yeah, like that. that would do that same type of thing where it's just like you'd be in the wild and you'd see these like robot dinosaurs just like walking around and interacting and fighting. Or I've heard a lot of people say like Far Cry 5 is the same thing. Like you're about to take this base, and then all of a sudden a grizzly bear like walks up and starts fighting them. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
That's a trip. I love worlds that feel alive, and part of that is just the unpredictability. Man. I think they did a remastered Red Dead Redemption for PS4. Of course, I guess it's a moot point because I guess I could get if they can get the download for it. Yeah, I might need to rebuy that game because God, it's so good. Oh, I really want to play it again now. It's so fun. Oh, it's so fun.
So my first system was an N64.
Woo!
That was the first one I had. I don't remember exactly when we got that, but yeah, I was playing GoldenEye. I had Star Wars Shadows of the Empire.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It was good. It was a lot of fun. What was the dude's name? It wasn't
Dash Rendar or some bullshit
Solo.
like that?
Yes, Dash Rendar.
Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah, it is. I remember it took us like a year and a half to beat that game. Like me and my dad would take turns, like each night, or a couple nights each week, and it took us like a year and a half to beat that game. And I played a whole bunch on my N64. I had Super Mario 64, all that stuff. The next system I got was my Game Boy. I had an original Game Boy, and I had a yellow one. I got that, I want to say, for my 8th birthday. And my parents took me to Fuddruckers, and I remember we sat there, we got burgers, and they handed me the present, and it was wrapped in like yellow G.I. Joe wrapping paper. And I was like, what is it? What is it? And I opened it up, and I was like, it's a Game Boy! It's amazing!
Nice.
But I besides Pokemon, there wasn't much on my Game Boy that I really liked. I had a Mega Man game. I fucking hated it. It was so hard, and I couldn't do anything. I was like, I can't even beat the first level. What is this shit?
Yeah,
so
some of those old school games are pretty fucking unrelenting, especially with that little tiny
brutal.
SD-pad. Yeah, forget that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not a Mega Man fan. I don't like Mega Man because I could never beat it. But then what did I get after that? I had what came first? PlayStation 2 or GameCube?
I think the PS2.
I think PlayStation 2. I think
Fairly
PlayStation
certain.
2 was the next one that I got. Yeah, because I was playing things like Final Fantasy X. That was my first Final Fantasy game, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
And then I got into Kingdom Hearts, and I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. They are not easy to get into. I saw something recently online. It was some video, and it was like, this is exactly why I can't share Kingdom Hearts with my friends. And it's just this montage of just like the stupidest, ridiculous moments. And then there's one in there, like Mickey walks into the room, and they're in some like sci-fi, like steampunk looking room, and Mickey walks in with this black like trench coat and a hood, and he's like, so I heard you're looking for the door to darkness. And it's just like, this is the stupidest thing in the world. But I love it. I don't know. I'm super excited for the third one that's coming out.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'm...
they've been teasing that game for so long.
supposedly it'll be here in January. They announced that it'll be here at the end of January. I think the 28th or something is when they said. But something, yeah. So I had PS2, and then I got a GameCube. I remember my dad waited in line at like 6 a.m. to go get that for me. Then I got a PlayStation 3, and I had that forever. I eventually had an original Xbox, but I was late to that game. I didn't like Xbox at first. The controllers, the original ones, were
the giant
ginormous.
ones. Yeah.
And I hated them. I couldn't do it. And it was the first one that I played like a modern shooter where you had you controlled where your character moves with one joystick and where he looks with another. I was still used to GoldenEye. And I hated it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't walk and move at the same time. So I was like, Halo is stupid. This is the worst game ever. You can't even control it. And eventually I got into it, and now I love it. And I was like, this makes so much sense. It's so much better to have these two joysticks to move that stuff.
Once you get used to them, it's pretty big. It was a pretty big adjustment at the time. I remember, basically just running into walls and shit. Like, what's happening? What's happening? What is happening?
Oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see, and then I had a ton of great memories with Halo and Halo 2, stuff like that. Just all the LAN parties and inviting people over. I think one of my birthdays we had a full 16 for 8-on-8 capture the flag or stuff like that. It was awesome. I had a PS3. I had an Xbox 360. I got a red ring of Doom, so I just kind of gave up on my Xbox. I have a PS4. I bought it 2 years ago. So I was late to the game on that because I still had a bunch of stuff to play on my PS3. I don't have an Xbox One yet. I'm getting close to the point where I really want one because they had a very rough start, but I've been slowly being like, okay, you guys are adding this service and that. I kind of like that. There's more games that I want to play now. I can see that. But it's also getting close to the point where they're going to be announced in the next couple years here. We'll start to hear announcements. In the past 2 weeks, there's been a lot of announcements and rumors about stuff that's going to be happening for the next Xbox and what that's going to be like. It sounds like there's going to be the main Xbox and then a smaller streaming box thing. It's starting to sound like gaming is going to go more into the streaming service side of things. So
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I believe it. I just I don't know, man. I guess in this old school, I still like to have some kind of physical media. Maybe it's just because I have so many internet problems and things, connection issues.
But that's the thing. I think they're taking the steps now, and this is them testing it out. Because remember when the iPhone first came out, or just when smartphones in general came out, how long it took for everyone to adapt that. But then once it did, it was just this makes so much more sense. I didn't have a smartphone until mid 2000s.
Same. I just didn't give a shit.
Whenever. Something like that, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think what we'll see initially isn't going to be the best, and it's going to be kind of rough. But hopefully in 5 to 10 years, that's where we'll be at. Who knows? We'll see.
Technology, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh boy, we'll see. We've been recording for an hour, and we had half an hour of technical difficulties.
Yeah, we did.
So I don't want to keep you if you gotta start getting to work or whatever you are doing this evening.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I've got the day off. It's really hot, like I said, so I've just been in my house, but we gotta get the hell out of the house and do something. But I don't know yet. But yes, I'm gonna go figure out whatever that thing is.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we will wrap things up there. Sorry for no live stream this week. Usually you guys can check us out every week at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time at thewhatnauts.com/live streams or on twitch.tv/twitch.tv/thewhatnauts. You guys can check out all of our stuff there. I believe I finally kind of solved our RSS feed issues. I guess I didn't really solve it, but things are working now. I'm gonna wait one more week to give a full 100% backing on that. But be warned, I think we are going to start taking down our master RSS feed. So if you have not yet subscribed to each of our shows individually, I highly encourage you to do that, because we will be taking the master feed down off of iTunes. So go do that, subscribe. You guys can search the Whatnauts on whatever podcast feed you use. You can find all that stuff there. Subscribe to the Captain's Log, subscribe to the review show, and subscribe to the Reactor Core, or whichever ones you want. But the one that is simply called the Whatnauts will be taken down. That said, let's see, what did... coming up on the review show, we're going to be releasing an episode on House of Five Leaves. Go check it out. It's a slice of life anime about a samurai who gets a job with the Yakuza and has some moral differences. He's not so sure he wants to be working for some criminals there. So go check that out. Eric, where can the lovely people find you on the interwebs?
I am at the Bobby Krogan on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me on Instagram on my pro page. That's Eric Manix Photography. Sweet.
And if you guys want to find me personally on the internet, I am on Twitter at Hush315. You guys can follow at the Whatnauts for all the updates of all of our podcasts and stuff like that. Go like, share, subscribe, sell your soul, smash the bell notification on YouTube, all of that stuff. Tell a friend, especially now that we have our RSS feeds up and working. We could really use some brand new reviews on all of that stuff. So if you guys could do us a favor and send some iTunes reviews our way, or on Google Plus or wherever else they are, that would help us out a ton. But that being said, this has been the Captain's Log, episode 18. I guess we will see you guys next week. Adios, guys.
See you.
Bye.